This space is intended to bring awareness to the hurdles of third-party reproduction and help navigate the anxiety and societal stigmas that come with it. The road to parenthood looks different for everyone. For those of us who can't have a traditional family, the aim is to strengthen the resolve against society's expectations. You're listening to Mothers in Arms. I'm your host, Leslie Lopez. This is episode The Costco Fertility Deal. Hello there. Today, I got to chat with my friend Arsiak Vartenian, an advocate for every woman fighting to have her baby via assisted reproductive life. Arsiak is the founder and host of Smart is the New Sexy. She now has put roots down in Florida with her family and talks openly about how she had her daughter via surrogacy. Arsiak shares some exciting news on the episode. We managed to focus ourselves and talk about the recent partnership between IVI RMA North America, Sesame, and Costco. This fertility deal expands access by lowering costs for Americans growing their families via IVF. The companies are saying they are executing on the mandate from the presidential order's call to action. It's truly something exciting, although still in the early days, and so the information's limited. However, the fact that it is offering 80% of savings on fertility medication, in my opinion, it's worth looking into. Without further ado, let's get into this. Thank you, Arsiak, so much for being back on the show. It's lovely to see your face again.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for having me. This is so exciting. I'm so excited about our conversation we're about to have. What a great development in the IVF world.
It really is. And I just have to say, you're such an inspiration to so many people. I know for myself, when I watch your stories, when I hear what you're talking about, it gives me hope. It gives me support in knowing that somebody went through what I went through. Someone's going through what I'm going through, not just in my fertility journey, but as a mother, as a woman in my 40s, all the things that it takes us to put one foot in front of the other to get out the door. You've become my social media girlfriend, and I know that so many women connect with what you're saying.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you so much for that. And as you and I originally connected was through this journey. We found each other over IVF and surrogacy. It was through surrogacy. I remember when you first reached out to me, I thought it was spam. Remember that? I was like, I was telling you this. I was like, is this spam? This can't be, because at that point I wasn't really on this journey and building this community of women that are struggling with infertility or that are wanting to be moms. And as we have discussed before, we wish we had this kind of support when we were going through it ourselves. And we we just started going. It hasn't been that long. Your daughter is 5, right?
Right.
Your daughter, yeah. So it hasn't been that long. So maybe I would say altogether, it's been probably about 8 years ago that we started these journeys as in exploring motherhood and figuring out what we're doing and how we're going to make our dreams come true and not lose hope that we're not able to carry our own. And having those options out there has just been such a beautiful thing, but not talked about enough. And when it is talked about, people that aren't educated about it look down upon it. There's judgment, there's naysayers. And until you really educate yourself and understand what that person or that woman has gone through to be able to start this family, it's not an easy feat.
That's right. It's not an easy feat. And we have very unique backgrounds in how we became mothers. And that's one of the things that we advocate for is 1 in 6 people suffer from infertility. And there is a process to becoming a parent. Not everybody needs to, but if you did want to do it, there are steps that you can take via assisted reproductive life that can help your dreams of becoming a parent come true. But having said that, of course, that price tag, as we know, right, every year goes up more and more and more. And that's why it's super exciting to talk about something that just came out a few weeks ago. And I want to preface with saying that because it's so new, there's still not that much data on how it's affecting people, how people are reacting to this. But what we know so far is that people, if you're a Costco member, you can access this fertility care. If you have started this journey of going through the steps, please let us know how it's going. We'd love to hear from you, not just for the reviews, but really because at the end of the day, we're an infertility community. We are the worst club with the best members. And I know I'm blessed to have found this tribe. I found you, RC.
I
So
know. Same.
without these conversations, right, it can be very isolating. So when I heard about this Costco and Company deal, as I'm going to call it, but it's a partnership with Sesame and IVI RMA. It's three companies that have come together to offer this deal. And from reading up on it, what I'm seeing is that it's great if you catch it at the beginning, right? If you're just starting out on your journey, this is a
Yes.
great first step, right? If you're noticing, gosh, I'm trying to get pregnant, it's not happening, I've tried, those first things, my period, these sort of first steps, if you haven't done anything yet, you want to find out about your fertility health, this is wonderful.
Yes, I agree. I think that one of the things I think that has started this whole conversation, and not to be political, but the president, when he came out and started with saying he's going to start cutting costs for certain IVF medications, which we know because we've gone through it, are some of the most expensive, like Menopur and Follistim. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I've taken it so many times that I should have the right word, but is it Follistim?
That's right. Yeah, this
Yeah. So
system
those
pen.
are the two. Yeah, those are the two. I would say the most expensive I remember from going through IVF, that were the two most expensive drugs. I mean, they could cost up to. I remember. I mean, I had insurance, so I was very blessed in that aspect. But I had friends that didn't, and the pricing that they were being at that 7, 8 years ago, that they were being quoted 7,000, 8,000. One of my girlfriends was quoted $15,000 for meds alone, which to me is insane.
Yeah.
And she had to pay it. Luckily, on one of my rounds, I ended up giving her like all my leftover meds, because they just kept, they prescribed me so much. And I've done that for a couple of friends.
That's
That,
amazing.
yeah.
That's
And
that's a very cool thing.
the medication's expensive. So for them to come out, which I really do applaud, the president for coming out first and saying this, and then everybody has followed. If you remember, like Costco's huge. It's all over, wherever you go, whether you're in Mexico or in the Dominican, there's a Costco everywhere you look, I feel. And so to do this with these other facilities, I pray that it's going to be a game changer for so many that are hoping to start a family. And now it's become more affordable and more accessible.
Meds are often the number one barrier in people pursuing their families. It's one thing for the doctor's visits, right? And then it's another thing, as you said, the medication for IVF goes through the roof. But then how many rounds of IVF are you actually doing, right? It's most of the time not just one round of IVF. So like your friend, my insurance didn't cover the medications. And I do remember going to pick up that bag of meds and it was like, what do you mean that's $1,300? Like, and then the next time you go, oh, next week, here's another $1,300. Like Costco is really putting front and center these Follistim pens that go anywhere from right 160 to 492. And you're right, that Menopur, I remember paying like 900 something for that drug, right? And they're charging like 638. Now, in order for you to get these prices, yes, you have to be a Costco member, but you also have to go through the Sesame program first, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so Sesame is, from what I understand, Because you're a Costco member, it gives you complimentary access to Sesame's network. You pay $99, though, if you are going to move forward with getting the treatments for it. But you get that person through your whole journey. So if your fertility journey is like a year and a half, 2 years plus, you have that same person at Sesame that helps you with mental health, that helps you with coordination, medical guidance. And what I like is the medical terminology translation, because so many times you get these drugs and you're like, what are we talking about? Like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with this?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and we've had a side conversation, you and I, prior to this, just trying to understand the whole concept of exactly how this is going to flow, right? As we know, and as we've both experienced, your doctor is really important of who you are working with this journey. But
Right.
not only is it your doctor that's just as important, that people fail to understand, especially people that have just started IVF or people that have maybe gone through 2 or 3 rounds. Like you've said, if you go through one round and you get a good, embryo and you get good follicles, that's a blessing, right? But more
Right.
than likely, it's more than one round. It's 2 to 3 rounds, before you can get the result that you want. So I say, and I've said this just because of what I have gone through in the past, and I've done 6 rounds of IVF. It was super important for me to work with my doctor. Not only that, the nurses that are within that facility, because they are the ones that are monitoring you, that are reporting back to the doctor, that the
100%.
doctor now is looking at your results. And then not just that, the lab that they use and how the doctor is, the relationship with the lab and the doctor. So those three things go together to actually have a successful embryo result, that if you want your best chances. So this is going to be interesting to see how all these people communicate. Are you just another number through that line? Are you somebody that is just, coming through just because? So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out.
It is going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out because it's never been done before, right?
Yes.
As we know, IVI RMA has great reviews they're known for their pioneering IVF technology. And they have mixed reviews as far as the success rates. Their success rates are still a little bit mixed, although New Jersey has better reviews, California has really good reviews. I noticed that the labs in every state, they're not every city, right? So, for example, you live in Florida, they don't have one in Miami. They have it in Lake Mary, Florida, which is about, I looked
Up
above
north.
Orlando, right? It's up to,
Yeah.
that's right. So, let's say you're living in Florida. Yes, there's Costco's everywhere. But if you wanted to go to the lab, right, you'd have to do a little bit of trekking. You'd have to be you're talking about, right, web appointments. It's great that it's a little more affordable, but it is a little bit more steps for the intended parent, right? You're trying to go here, go there, like it's just going to be a little bit more, which means you have to be more on your notes, on everything you're scheduling. That's great that Sesame's there to support you, but it is obviously like a little bit more work.
It is. And as you know, IVF is one of the hardest things that you can go through as a woman, because what it does to your body and what it does to time, like when you start going through IVF and you're taking these meds and you're on a schedule and you have to have monitoring, you're going to doctor's appointments not every other day, every day. And you're doing the monitoring, especially the workup to whether it's your retrieval for your follicles or your transfer. So there's a lot of time and energy that goes into IVF. So this is great. This is all great. It's not anything bad what they're doing. It's just now just seeing the logistics. And as anything that's new that comes out, right, there's going to be kinks that they have to work out. And I do believe that this network will grow. And I really do hope that there will be really good results, and people that are trying that can't really afford IVF, or they've done one round and they've done a second. They're just like, we are spent both financially, which has been a huge burden, and emotionally, that this is going to help them along the way to be able to have that family that they've been wanting and praying for.
You said two things that really connect with me. Yes, there's so many moving parts to it that you have to talk to the nurses. You have to make sure you get it right. Did you by chance have like an IVF journal going when you were go to your doctor, like, oh, I have to, this is what they said and this is what I have to do? Like, I didn't the first couple of rounds, but I remember by the last couple of rounds, I had my little journal of like, they said this, because otherwise you just don't remember.
You know what's so funny, Leslie? I wish I would have documented more of my journey. I really do. A lot of my journey I documented up here. And then it was just one of those things that for me, like when I go through something so traumatic, I just want to forget about it. I just want to keep pushing forward. And if I'm not getting the result that I want, okay, let me just wipe my tears, get up and do it again. Because I know I'm going to end up figuring out a way to get what I want somehow, some way. Because I always say, if the front door doesn't work, you use the back door. If the back door doesn't work, you use the windows. If the windows don't work, hell, you just put a hole through the roof to get to where you're going. And I've always been like that about life. And I think that's why my IVF journey really just, don't get me wrong, it was a struggle, but I just never gave up hope because I knew that there was going to be options. There's got to be a way. Now that I am doing surrogacy again, right? We are going through surrogacy again. So we're in the early stages. So you're one of the first people that I have,
oh my goodness,
expressed this to. Yeah. So
oh my goodness.
Ironically, so we're using the same agency that we used for my first journey, or my second journey, I should say. This is our third journey. Now we have one child, a 4-year-old daughter. I have an embryo left. And so my nurses, this is why I feel it's so important. My nurses, so I was with my old clinic, which my doctor wasn't there. He had retired. So I just assumed being from, living in Miami, and then just they have all my stuff in Chicago, my embryo, it's storage there. It just would be easier to go through that. Okay. Just something didn't sit well with that old facility that I had gone with. I just picked a doctor and I was like, okay. And ironically, one day my IVF nurses called me out of the blue. I'm like, is this a joke? And she's like, Arsiak, we're opening up our clinic. There's a new doctor coming. Dr. So-and-so has retired and we're no longer. And I was so happy to hear this because they were the ones that gave me the result that I wanted. They were the two nurses. There were three actually, but two of them are there now. They were the two that held my hand through all these appointments that I developed a relationship with, that knew what the inside of me looked like more than what I did or my husband did, because they were always ultrasounds, So I'm like, boy, what does my uterus look like today? And we would just laugh about it. And she would say, gosh, you come in here and you make us laugh. Like, it's so good to just have someone come in and be so lighthearted about it. I said, look, at the end of the day, we cannot control what we can't control, right?
Right.
At least
how often are you going to walk into that office, right? Like, it's all hard
exactly.
enough.
So you just want to make light of the conversations. But so now I'm working with them. My embryo's safe and sound with them in their lab. So they had all merged over there once my doctor had retired. Another doctor that I also know that I've heard of very well, he's going to be handling my surrogate, and my nurses are going to be handling my surrogate. They're going to be working alongside of him. So this just gives me hope. And it gives me hope that, God willing, that I will get the result, and I have one try, one shot. That's it. I have no more follicles left in me. Maybe I do, who knows? But the last 2 rounds were a failure. So I have no more follicles. I'm in my late 40s. So as you know, that's it. We have to be realistic. I'm not saying it can't happen for some women. It definitely can. But for me personally, it can't happen anymore. I have my embryo.
Well, the only other way would be if you were to purchase donor eggs right?
Yes.
That would be a way that you could be a parent, or right, if you wanted to go the surrogacy route, right? But
Yes.
yes, what a blessing that your husband is like supportive, and that your daughter is going to be a part of this process, that you've been there already. You've done this before. This isn't your first time down this road. So you already know what to expect, although it's going to be totally different,
Yeah.
completely different, right? In every which way, you know?
In every which way. We're talking about 5 years later, and so many things have changed. And I can't wait to share this. But alongside of that, too, with Costco and IVI and RMA coming together that are, creating this. And I think from what I also read, and please don't quote me on this, but I also read they also have a big surrogacy
They
um,
do. They do. That's
network.
right. They do egg donation, sperm donation, as you said, IUI. They're quite advanced. They're in.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when we look at this, this is all good. We are moving in the right direction in terms of building families. If this is somebody's dream or this is somebody's want, they are making it at a point where it is going to be much more affordable to go through IVF. Now, I don't know about surrogacy. We both know, the cost of surrogacy is out of pocket and it could be very expensive. And I know that there's programs out there that you can get loans and that there's help that people could, but I don't,
Right.
surrogacy is not covered by insurance. It's either they consider it a luxury, right? They
Right.
consider it a luxury. So, which is unfortunate because there
Mm,
are people that have medical needs that cannot do it. And I know this just because from going through it and you yourself going through it too. So I
yes.
truly believe that everybody's IVF journey looks different. Mine may look different than yours. Yours may look different than mine. But at the end of the day, we all have the same goal and the same hope. It's just to have a child.
That's right. 100%. And yes, it goes from when someone asks me, gosh, how much did your fertility journey cost you? I mean, it makes me a little uncomfortable to talk about the price, right? Because it's like, it's such a personal thing. But at the same time, I do want people to know that, yeah, it's not easy. You can't just be like, oh, let me go down a surrogacy journey, right? And to that note, you can't just be like, oh, let me become a parent, right? Both things are not a given. So yeah, it's very expensive, but we'll all add a list of all the different forms of fertility insurance that exist now. I'm amazed. There's at least 10 different ways that you can, just like you would take out a loan for a house or a car, you can take out a loan to help you build a family. It's a beautiful thing with lots of different interest points that some of which are very reasonable. What I love about this with Costco Fertility is that, yeah, maybe it's not going to cover surrogacy, or if you have a specific needs, and if you're LGBTQ plus, I don't even know where that leaves you, right? So there are holes,
Yeah.
of course, but if there's a way to get into the drug part, right? Like even if that's the minimal part, is that you go through Sesame and you have a counselor and it helps you get the drugs, right? And you end up going somewhere else, right? Just look at all the avenues, pull everything in, as you said, the door, the back door, the roof, find a way to get all the little savings that you can. Right. And someone I heard did a GoFundMe to have a family. They put it right
Oh,
on their
wow.
wedding list.
Wow.
Right on the wedding list. It was like a home mortgage, honeymoon, and then they had a family fund. And I thought that was brilliant. So it was just kind of a nice way for them to just let friends and family know that this is what they were doing.
No, I think people are starting to become more and more creative when it comes to starting families. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And some people are just like, no, this is what I want. And I know that. And I was very adamant about, I want my own child. Like, I want to see my own little human being. I want to see my DNA. And I was very blessed in that aspect that I did. My husband and I were able to achieve that. But if we weren't, I would have been able to look at other options. Going back, you're not going to love another human being like a little baby or a little toddler. Like, you're not going to love that child endlessly to the moon
Right.
and back. So I do believe that motherly instinct, and there's some people that are like, no, I'd rather not have kids. I want my own. And I respect that. Because I respect the fact that you say that rather than we've heard these stories and they've been in the news where people have been adoptive parents and the things that they've done to these children is horrifying.
100%.
So it's to each their own, but there are options out there if you're open to them.
I think getting ahead of it also, RC, right? Like if you're younger, let's say you're in your 20s and you know that you have maternal instincts, or maybe you see that you don't, right? That's not the way you're going to be for the rest of your life. Take that moment. And do you want to freeze your eggs? Do you want to freeze embryos? Like that's the moment to say, all right, well, let me take this moment now because my eggs are really good, right? Let me not miss the chance of having this option later on in life. You may discover so many other things about yourself, about your fertility health, but that's when you want to get of it. That's when you want to know.
You're so right. I wish that I wish I would have known this in my 20s. I wish that I could have had this conversation with my fertility doctor with my OBGYN in my 20s. I wish I had that conversation to be able to understand my fertility health. And now it's like so much information out there. It's like somebody in my family, she's young, she's 23, she's in college, she's finishing college. She doesn't know if she wants to go back. She definitely doesn't want to get married anytime soon. She wants to focus on her career. So she's exploring the egg freezing. She's exploring that now. And I told her, I said, this is amazing because it's whether you use them or not, at least you know they're there because you can get pregnant naturally. So it's a good option to have and to go through this because your 23-year-old eggs follicles are going to be better than your late 30s or 40s. I don't give up hope. My best retrieval, and I went through 6 retrievals. The best one that I had, I think I was either 41 or 42. And it was like, that's where my embryos came. And what I did, and not saying that everybody has to do this, I harvested because I was educated. My doctor educated me. He said, listen, just because you have a healthy embryo does not mean it's going to result in a pregnancy. So if I were you, I would try to get as many embryos as you can, do it for about a year. And then after that, you do your transfer. But in between my trying, I would get pregnant, miscarry. And then we started doing more tests and I just could not carry. I couldn't carry. So that's when we sat down and had a serious conversation. And he said, what do you want to do? What is your end result? I said, I want to have a baby. He said, well, if you could do this, I would put it in someone that's younger, that has had a pregnancy, that has went to full term because I had miscarriages at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. And then in between, I was, diagnosed with subchronic hematoma, not once, but twice, where I had bleeding in the uterus. So my pregnancy, it was just, so at the end, mine was, this is what I want. I want a baby. So we had our first surrogate, didn't result in a baby. She miscarried at 6 months. And then my second surrogate gave me Valentina. So we'll see what happens with the last and final embryo.
It's going to be the most beautiful result. Whatever comes of it, it's exactly what was meant for you, RC. And
that's true.
It's just a blessing that you get to try and see this other passion, this other dream come true. It's going to be beautiful, like just the process. Is there something that you want to capture in this relationship with this surrogate that perhaps you thought about with your first surrogate that you didn't get to?
So when we find our surrogate, I think I'm going to document this journey differently because I truly do believe that there's a lot of people out there that want to see this journey through. So one of the things that I had asked for in my profile for my surrogate, which we have not been matched yet, is somebody that's going to be open to documenting this, that's going to be open to, having these conversations often with me, like checking in and being able to be on camera, or maybe not be on camera, but at least if, let's say, if I'm having a conversation with her, I can record these conversations. I said, because through this journey, let's say that this does happen, and is being able to document along the way. And I also want to document whether it works or not, because at the end of the day, it's important for people to see the result, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. And what I mean by ugly is not, having the result that you expected, right? You expect this because you're invested both emotionally, financially, socially. You're invested in every which way. So I want to take people on this journey alongside with me as we start to go through this. I hid everything the first 2 times. Not hid, but I was just more private with it all because of the trauma. But I can't be private if I'm helping people, right? And I've been an open book about everything that has gone on in my IVF journey. I have been an open book. I have shared as much as I possibly can. And when I think about something, I'm like, I need to share this. So I believe it, and I owe it to my community that I'm building just to be transparent, because you never know who this will help.
What is the verbiage that surrogates are giving their family members to discuss what the family is doing, right? It's a job, it's a blessing, it's a beautiful thing that they're doing, and there shouldn't be shame when they go to the grocery store or church or when they're around their other families for doing this beautiful favor.
I think it's something that's really important, right? And a conversation to be had. Like right now, for instance, like Valentina, she says to me, Mommy, I was born in your tummy. And I just say, you were born in a tummy. I don't say, my tummy, but I don't want to explain to her just yet, because my daughter is very sensitive. Like she'll start crying when she sees me holding her as a baby. And she's like, Mommy, I love you. You're my everything. And, she's a very sensitive soul. She feels so much. I'm so blessed with this baby. Like, I can't believe God blessed me with such a beautiful little girl. And if she's the only child that I have, I am forever grateful and forever indebted to my surrogate, because she's an amazing human being. But if I can give her a sister, then that's what it's going to be, right? And that's what I could be able to do. And then I will explain to her, because she's going to see that I'm not pregnant. So that's where I will start to explain to her, my husband and I, and having these conversations with her of how, she came into this world. And it's going to be an interesting way how it develops. I'm going in it with eyes wide open and an open heart, but also a sound mind that this is how it's going to be. And it could go this way or it can go this way. And whichever way it goes is what's meant to be. And there's nothing that I can do, because right now I am so grateful that I have one.
What I'm hearing you say is it was your passion. It was what you wanted to focus on. You moved heaven and earth, opened every drawer and door in order to see it through. And that's what you're going to do now for your second journey. And Valentina's going to see it. If she's not, whatever she's absorbing around her, she'll be able to go back into the documentation that you're going to have. And as an older child, as an adult, for the rest of her life, and really see your vision, your direction, right? Your passion for what you wanted to see through.
Yeah. And, Leslie, you've been through this too. We've been through the same exact journey. Like we have this, our journeys might have looked different, but our result was the same exact thing. We wanted to be mothers, and we're mothers to these little girls, that it is our duty as moms to be as transparent, as honest, as open with them, and just to guide them and show them. We're doing both the same work of just bringing transparency, information, and educating people that if you want to start a family, look at how we were. We were in our 40s. It's not too late. So thank goodness that Costco came out with this, and IVI, RMA, like they've both, and Sesame have all come together to create something that is going to give people hope, and that's going to give people a chance to have what we have.
I love those words. Hope and chance.
Yeah.
100%. That's what it's about, right? 100%, right? Everything right now, gas, right? Everything is so expensive that spending a good chunk of your income on the drugs, on the doctor's appointments, on all of these things that seem extra, right? This is just a little bit of cushion to be like,
Yeah.
well, you could try it, I just want to go back quickly. We try to protect our kids, right? You haven't told your daughter yet so much about the tummy. To your point of kids, they're so smart and sensitive that you can't always make them hear things the way you want to hear things. We were at a pool, and the question I always get is, when are you going to have another child? When are you going to have another child? And this little girl asked my daughter, when is your mom going to have another child? Or when are you going to have a sister or a brother? And so they come to me and they're like, are you going to do it? And the mom of the little girl is also like staring at me, right? So these are like strangers. We're at a pool. I just met you. And you want to know when I'm going to have another child. So my daughter's face looking at me like expected, like, what are you going to say, mama? Mommy's tummy doesn't work the way everybody else's tummy works. Mommy's tummy, I can't hold on to a baby in there. So I can't just do it. But we had somebody help me. We had somebody help me carry you. Oh, okay. And she turns around to her friend and she's like, yeah, somebody carried me. Okay. And mommy, what's wrong with your tummy? And I'm just like, I remember picking up something light. Like, I can only carry this much weight instead of this much weight. I was trying to dumb this down. I think I got like a glass, and it was like a shot glass versus a cup or something. I was like, this is,
Great analogy.
like I was like reaching for straws clearly, and it was like reaching for something clearly. And anyway, that's the way it ended. The mom just kind of looked at me, and her and I kind of kept the conversation going. But my daughter and the other little girl moved on, right? And the next week in school, the next few days later in school, the teacher told me that my daughter got hurt talking in school. It was like they were talking about, there's always a pregnant person coming into school, right? There's always a pregnant mother coming into school. So my daughter is constantly seeing other children, pregnancies, right? Life. And it came up again about, Elise, you don't have any siblings, And she said, it's because my mommy's tummy doesn't work. But that's okay. You don't always have to carry, not everybody's tummy works. You can have babies in other ways. This is what a 5-year-old said.
Yeah, they're so smart. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting conversation. And I think this is definitely
same thing back to you, though, Arsiak. I'd say the same thing back to you. Just the way you're trying to shield her, protect her. Do the same for yourself, right? Like, own it, own yourself. Owning yourself and your condition, right, is going to be the best thing that she can see her mommy do, right?
Yeah.
When this journey is so different than your first one, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself, right? At the beginning, when I was first explaining to people about how I had a surrogate, I'd get a little bit of frog in my throat. Sometimes I'd get teary-eyed, and I would find my heartbeat a little bit difficult of, here comes something hard for me to speak about, but now, right, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit, I can own it. I cannot tremble with my voice about how I had my daughter via surrogacy. I'm there taking the shame out of yourself and saying, right, we'll take the shame out of it for our daughters.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And I love the way you had said that and saying that it's just owning it, because again, we're raising little human beings, girls in this world, and we want them to grow up to be confident and strong and to speak up for themselves and to speak up for others. And the only way they're going to do that and emulate that is if we ourselves do the same.
The links to follow up for more information are going to be in the show notes. And yes, you do have to be a Costco member, but they deliver everywhere. Maybe try getting other medications delivered from the pharmacy prior to practice. That way you'll be ready for game time. That's all the time we have for today. Liking this episode on whichever platform you're on really goes a long way to getting the word out on this show. You can check out more of these and similar stories on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok at mothersinarms.pod. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.